بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسولنا الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Dear brothers and sisters, welcome to our program, Real Life and Education. We are going to carry on about the topic of last week, the biography of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and with the same consultant, starting from my left, Professor Rashid Mimouni. You're welcome, and we just stop on the points that you were mentioned. In my left, Dr. Mohammed Belghit, you're welcome to
Thank you.
our. We're going to say previous topic, but still that previous topic or the topic of last week, very important. For that reason, we couldn't afford it. Today we are going to carry on, and we stopped on that point of talking about tolerance and patience and of Nabi Sallallahu Muhammad Sallallahu. I will let you start.
Well, we mentioned last session that Prophet Sallallahu has got very high qualities that are recorded in the Quran and recorded by the companions. And Professor Belghit mentioned also that they were recorded even by the non-Muslims at that time, praiseworthy, truthfulness and so forth. A person, in order to follow another person, he has got an internal inclination to another. He has to, as a model, as a qudwa, as a model to emulate, to feel. And I brought last time the word of a Sufi brother who wrote a book, The Way of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's a British English in East Anglia, in the mosque of East Anglia in Norwich at that time when I was a student. And he wrote many books, among them The Way of Muhammad. Why he's following Muhammad? He said, we have the necessity, what is the qualifications of a person I have to follow? And he mentioned, the Prophet ﷺ, he is the praiseworthy. Yani Muhammad. Muhammad was forbearing. Yani he was honest, just, chaste, chaste. He was the most generous of men. Neither a dinar nor a dirham was left him in the evening. He would have almonds, he would give them to the poor, to the needy at that time. If anything remained there was no one to give it to. Night having fallen suddenly, he would not retire to his apartment until he was able to give this excess to whoever needed it. He would go out and give it to a poor. Even he was in need. Prophet ﷺ, once Umar ibn al-Khattab entered in his house. He saw nothing. Oh Prophet, you have nothing. He would cry because he had no furniture. Alayhi salam. He was never asked for anything that he gave to the asker. Even he had small thing, he would give it. He wouldn't refuse. And this is Abdul Qadir Sofi, he was an English Muslim. He would prefer the secret to himself and his family, and so often his store of grain for the year was used up before the end of the العولة كما نقولوا في الجزائر. العولة هذاك يوزعها عليه السلام. He patched his sandals, يرقع الأحذية نتاعو، تواضع. On clothing, did household chores. He ate with his women folk. بتكبرش على نسائه، يفطر معاهم.
He wasn't arrogant.
He was not arrogant. He was shy, and he wouldn't stare into people's faces. يخزر فيك. لا لا. Shy. يعني he was shy. He answered the invitation of the slave at that time. He liberated the slave. He wouldn't invite to him home. He would come to him. If he had the freeborn, he accepted presents, if they considered of merely a draught of milk. He accepted their presents. He gave me nothing. Okay? While, because of hunger, he would at times tie 2 stones on his stomach. من الجوع، من كثرة الجوع يضع على جوفه حجر. كثرة الألم تاع الجوع عليه السلام. He hate what that. Alors, he didn't eat. He attended feasts, visited the sick, attended funerals, and worked among his enemies without regard. He was the humblest of men. Okay, the most silent without being insolent. ماشي بالتكبر. He was silent without being silent. He was always joyful and never would, okay. He tyrannized nobody. He didn't tyrannize. He joked but only spoke the truth. He laughed with people. Okay? The conduct was bon. At the time, after mentioning all these qualities, he would say, it is essential that this starting point is established. We cannot see clearly, we do not know what is happening, we are looking for witness to of the event of existence we may trust. Okay, alayhi salatu wassalam.
You see, all what you already said, we can resume it in three parts. Nabi Sallallahu has got his spiritual life,
yeah,
and social life with the others, and economic life, and even cultural life. When we talk about spiritual life, between him and Allah Azza wa Jal, talking about his prayer, night prayer, talking about his sawm, fasting, talking about his zakat when he gave some money to the others, talking about his hajj and umrah. That is the spiritual life. The other life, which is social life, and I'm sure that social life is kind of convincing people how can we live all together. Because to convince people that you've got this money and don't have this money for tomorrow, you have to spend it for the others. I think no one can, I'm not sure, but I think no one can follow that. To hide this money for another day, stand of spending it on the others. What can you say, Dr. Mohammed?
If you remember, brother, if you remember, I said in the previous session that the Prophet of Islam has been appointed by the Almighty Allah to be the leader for all mankind, as it has been mentioned in the Holy Quran. So these individual qualities mentioned by our dear professor, right? These individual qualities are necessary for anyone who has been appointed as a leader. Because if you want to succeed to lead people, you need to invade their hearts before you invade their lands. You need to invade their hearts before you invade their lands. Spontaneously, I mean. Right? So these qualities, right, this high level of any behavior and conduct of any human being is necessary. When people ask how Islam, how the Prophet of Islam was successful, because he has been prepared by the Almighty Allah with a high education to be a successful leader.
Do you think this is called the value of people? If anyone, yes, if anyone wants to value,
yes,
has to do like
these
that.
high values, right, are necessary to lead people, to convince people. Because Islam is a convincing religion. It's not a religion where people should be forced
to do it,
to follow it or to embrace it. It is a convincing religion based on knowledge, science, and truthfulness in behavior and conduct. If we want to see the other side, so well, these are individual qualities. There are civilizational qualities also. الصفات الحضارية. The program brought by this prophet was holistic, is holistic, shamil. Why other leaders are not successful? Maybe. Why they failed in leading people in their movements of reform, for example, because their programs were not holistic. You will discover in history that there was a leader where he called and invited people for an economical development, that's all. But he neglected the other fields of life. You will discover philosophers, right, who called for spirituality, but he neglected the materialistic world. In the Prophet's program, you will discover that his program was holistic. He brought a program for the intellectual side, the physical side, and the spiritual side. There was a holistic program to the whole life, all fields of life. You will discover how to develop your materialistic world, how to develop your educational system, how to develop your political world, how to develop any human being, right? Holistic program. Second thing, which is also very important, at least according to my humble knowledge, is that the solutions brought by this prophet are realistic. Realistic means can be achieved in our real life. They are not imaginative only. They are not something high, if you want, angelic dimensions, ملائكية البعد. No. The Prophet Muhammad brought solutions which are real and realistic, which can be realized and convinced and achieved in our real life. The economical solutions are real. When he has prohibited riba, usury, because it is the cause of any economical failure, as Joseph Stiglitz mentioned in his book, The Deceptions of Globalization. For example, a Nobel Prize in economic studies, right? So you see, if he has prohibited rashwa, corruption, it is because it spoils our life, etc. So all the solutions brought the Prophet of Islam to develop our life are realistic in being applied in our life.
And it is not,
they are not like dreams only.
And it is not impossible.
Yes,
to reach it.
And hopes. Hopefully we will do. Hopefully we will achieve one day.
Yes.
Hopefully we will reach that level of life. No, he has achieved that in a Muslims the Islamic during the Islamic civilization. Either when we talk about knowledge, about education, about economical side, economical development, financial system, if we talk about political leadership, when we talk about philosophical world, right? The program brought by the Prophet of Islam was applied in the Muslim life. Yes.
I mean, even the solution, when no one can tell us that in the era of Prophet Nabi, he didn't find any some solution from some crisis. All the solution was found in Strayon when they had the problem between his hand, because he's got these amazing revelations coming up after that, and we've got the Holy Quran, where whatever you want to do or whatever you want to hear or to see, you will find in the Quran, because this is what we call Kalamullah Ta'ala. You've got all the kind of solution, as I said, all kind of spiritual comfortability, irtiyah tam, or irtiyah ruhi. Talking about as I said,
the strength of the Prophet's program appears in including constants with flexibility, for example, because some people maybe think that Islam is an ancient religion and now we are in the modern world and we are in the era of globalization and so on. But if we study Islam properly and correctly and with objectivity, we will find that Islam includes constants, thawabit, and flexibility in many of his teachings and his values. That's how Islam is successful. In any level you apply it, and in any time you will apply it in any place also, right? If he has prohibited some drinks, they are useful either in the north of the world or in the south of the world or in the east or in the west, right? If he asked us to apply some systems in education, they can be applied either in the cold weather or in the hot weather also. If with young people, there are programs suitable for young generations, and there are programs suitable for the elder, right? So this kind of characteristic, we call it including or mixing between constants, thawabit, and flexibility. Islam has its own constants which cannot change, but in the same time there are areas of flexibility. You can develop your life, you can have a modern house, you can have a beautiful car, you can have a very modern life, right, highly modernized. Islam is not against that at all. You can become very rich because maybe some misconceptions and misunderstanding of interpretations, right, say that Islam likes poor people more than rich people, and this is a wrong understanding. According to my humble knowledge, right, either you are rich or you are poor, it depends on how do you fear Allah, how do you use your wealth to serve the truth and justice, and from where you got your wealth, from true tools and means and trading and halal trading, or you got your wealth from injustice and corruption and speculation, etc., right? Either you are wealthy or you are poor. It depends on how do you accept both of the situations, one of the situations in your life. You can be very wealthy and thankful and grateful to Allah in using your wealth in serving the truth and justice and respecting human rights. And you can be poor and patient until Allah will help you and assist you, and you will maybe find another job which is better, etc. And both of the situations are considered as a test from Allah, the Almighty Allah. Hopefully we will be able to help each other and assist each other. So these are some wrong interpretations regarding the Islamic teachings.
It goes to we try to go to the people, the organizations of people.
Yes.
Towards Nabi Sallallahu Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu. We already last week talking about some of them, and we just want to carry on about why. The question is, what the Prophet Nabi Sallallahu added to us when he came to Ummah. What did he add to us? Because you see, when you work in somewhere or you live in somewhere, the people ask about yourself, about you, and they will say, okay, come in here, what did he add for us exactly? And this is the questions that make the as we say, mustashriqeen, some scholars, to recognize our Prophet by his ethics, by his way of life, by his thinking, how does he think, and how does he do in his area.
When we say the Prophet was realistic, Al-Quran describes the Prophet that يأكل الطعام ويمشي في الأسواق, which means that he was eating normal food like all other people, and walking in the market and sharing with people, and as Professor Mimouni mentioned, with poor people, and he was humble and modest, dealing with all people, poor people, rich people, women, and old people, young generations, right? So when
we just want to talk about we just want to talk about the stranger people. I mean, the European people, even Christian people.
Yeah.
How does he think about? Does they think about?
Do they think
about Nabi Sallallahu?
Well, maybe now there are a lot of books who are speaking about those Europeans who are great men who are speaking about Islam. For example, Goethe, the German poet, great German, who speaks, if this is Islam, he said, summarizing some of the qualities of Islam on Prophet ﷺ, he said, if this is Islam, we are all Muslims. Others, as I said before, at the time where reforms in Europe were hampered by the church and by the class of the nobles on the kingdom, because they didn't want to social reforms to happen, economic reforms and political reforms. Then they referred to the Prophet ﷺ as a social reformer, alayhi salatu wasalam. There are a lot of examples of people, T.B. Irving in Britain, G.B. Shaw, we mentioned G.B. Shaw. They are in many countries. I would say about Alphonse de Lamartine, the French poet, who said, he summarized this. He said the Prophet ﷺ, he was a philosopher, in the same hikmah, philosopher. He is a legislator. He put down legislation. He was a warrior as a statesman who defend his community. He is restoring the idea, the monotheist idea, against the idols. And he gave rational dogmas which are not without images, icons or something like that. Rational dogma. He founded 20 empires, worldly empires, on the one spiritual empire, which is Islam. This is Muhammad. At whatever scale you compare other person with him, he is the higher on the scale. No one is higher than him. Then there are a lot of people who are speaking. Alors, what are the qualities of the Prophet ﷺ? If we take the two stages, major stages, historical changes at the time of the Prophet ﷺ since revelation. The first thing, he was the Mecca period. What are his main realm? It is the spiritual realm. He restored the Unitarian conception of God, inherited since Adam, and particularly since Abraham the Hanif. Okay, Abraham is who is the father of the three monotheist religions. He brought down again. Then there is ethical values, as we mentioned, of the Prophet ﷺ, trustworthy, forbearance, truth speaking, modesty, and so forth. So by this charisma, his charisma, he attracted to him all people, or a lot of people around in Mecca, right from the rich people like Uthman ibn Affan, to people, to the slaves like Bilal, who adopted Islam. But at that time, he couldn't bring about a fully fledged system unless Allah Ta'ala, his divine plan, he went to Al-Madinah. And it was not prepared. I mean, there were few elements brought about Medina. And the Rasul ﷺ, when he went to Medina, he was flying at the time, and the idea was to set up an Islamic society in a multicultural, multi-ethnic, and multi-religious city. When this, at that time, Allah Ta'ala revealed to him the different disposition of Islam, starting from Salat, then Zakat, then Siyam, then Hajj. Okay? Which, alors, what is this? When we can, the qualities of the prophets were needed to implement the system. Allah Ta'ala says, or called to the Prophet alayhi salat, in uridu illa al-islah mastata'tu. I only want to make the reform as much as I could. And at that time, what is his approach, or the Islamic approach? This approach, alors, when he came to Medina, first of all, he came as an arbitrator, hakim. That is, there are two tribes, which is Al-Aws or Al-Khazraj, would fight each other. They were in mutual war, which are consuming their. He made peace between them. And at that time, we have to see that in Medina, there was no common law. There is no central government. There were tribes scattered in Medina. And he came.
And it is very hard to make in that time
aggregate
Medina, yes,
those things.
To agree, yes.
And we say the approach of Islam. It is the approach of Islam which implements it. This approach is human, empathic, calling for reason to the basic nature, which is covered by historical fact. It is a gradual process of reform. If you say, for example, how Islam forbids, for example, drinking of alcohol, and other things, gamble and things like that. He used a gradual process, starting from the spiritual realm, ethical realm, to the juridical processes on in every different aspects. Professor Belghit mentioned, for example, in what we are calling the subsystem, education, economic, political, and something like that. Family system, neighborhood, eliminating the slavery progressively, reforming all the progressive system. And the constitution, he set up first a constitution, ما يسمى بميثاق المدينة. The Medina's constitution later on, it was the first constitution since Hammurabi in Mesopotamia, in Iraq today. He made his constitution to be the first, but the first constitution with rights according to people. Everybody is free, freedom of worship, freedom of circulation, freedom of having his own legislation, and everybody has to protect the Medina from external invasion. And in this body of law, he gave to any religious religious faith oath its rights and its religious bodies on the religious temple or something like that. For example, the Jews was considered as member of the Ummah. It was first thing he made, the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, make mu'akhat. Brotherhood, active brotherhood between Muslims from Muhajirin and Ansar. Muhajirin, they had the people who came from Medina, from Mecca, they were in need of everything. They had nothing because they were expelled, or they flew from the exactions of the Meccan.
Exiling, yes.
Yeah, they were exiled. Then he made mu'akhat. To be mu'akhat, he made one slave or one free man on the slave. And he made poor people with rich people. They were brothers to help each other. One from Medina, one from the Mecca. This is for the Muslims. What about the non-Muslims, like the Jews, the tribals? He gave them their rights of worship of their law, civil law, of their religious things. Christians came to Medina, came to see the Prophet ﷺ, and he said, whoever is making harm to people of the book, that is Jews and Christians, I will be against him on the day of judgment.
And his report, yes.
Okay, then all these collective, individual lives, he made them out progressively. The legislation of Islam was spread through laws, through Quranic laws.
And these rules, if I can call them rules, and these rules, this kind of rules, which make the life easier to everyone.
Yeah.
And to make them living all together without any harmful or arms or
minorities or minorities.
Because especially you were talking about Jewish people and the others who need to give jizya about the
tax.
Kind of taxes, as if we can call them today. And for the rich people and the poor people from the Muslim people, this is what we call the compensations. To make compensations, as people can live in a very very easy situations and life, and even harmony.
Because minorities were not obliged to defend the state of Medina.
Yes.
They wouldn't. Then they have to make the compensation, economic compensation. That is.
And yes, this is what makes the grow up of any place or any countries or any nations, of course. Do you have? I was talking earlier about some verse which can describe Nabi Sallallahu, or a verse that was described in the Holy Quran, for example, as we already talked.
Yeah, maybe to summarize what our professor has highlighted, right, and to also remind our brothers and sisters about the verses you mean, the Holy Quran, right, we need here, I would like that before we leave, we need to make sure that our audience got the message, that we want either Muslims or non-Muslims, we want to motivate them to read about the Prophet of Islam more and to understand deeply his message, his civilizational message to all mankind, right? And to invite our brothers and sisters, Muslim people, to make sure that when we talk about the Prophet of Islam, we need to exhibit a very beautiful message and image about this Prophet, right, as I have started in the previous session. Because maybe some people, when they talk about the Prophet of Islam, they imagine that this Prophet is like an imam sitting only in the mosque and waiting to give fatwas only in small matters, right? They maybe spoil the image of this Prophet. Maybe they do not do it purposely, but unfortunately
they're doing it.
They are doing it, right? Yes. And this image, especially when it is exported to the other world, right, the Western world, so they might be having a wrong image about our Prophet, right? Alayhi salam. The Prophet of Islam is different from
what we think.
His previous brothers, the prophets before, alayhim salam, peace be upon them all. Because the Prophet of Islam is not only a worshipper, an individual worshipper in the cave of Hira, is not only, I say, an individual worshipper in the cave of Hira. In the same time, he is a state founder, Rajulu Dawla, he founded the State of Islam in Medina. The first Muslim state during the Islamic civilization was founded by the Prophet of Islam, Dawlat al-Medina. Because the Prophet Muhammad, if I want to summarize his life, worked in Mecca for 13 years in educating the individual, al-Fard, in Mecca. In the school, the first Islamic school in the Muslim history, which is Darul Arqam bni Abil Arqam, the house of Al-Arqam, which is considered in our history as the first Islamic school where the companions of the Prophet were educated and were learning and understanding and reading, reciting Quran, taught by and led by the Prophet himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? This is the first thing. Then when they migrated to Medina, right, there where the Prophet Muhammad founded the first Muslim state, Dawla Muslima, Muslim society, an organized society. Right? Professor mentioned 3 pillars: brotherhood, al-ukhuwa, and neighborhood, correct, proper neighborhood, and constitution, a dustur,
citizenship,
yes, a document organizing the relations between people, between their neighbors, between Muslims, new Muslim society, and the non-Muslims, who are considered the neighbors of the new Muslim state in Medina. So then the mosque, which is considered during the Islamic civilization as the center of the Muslim society. In that time, the mosque was a parliament meeting place, was a place of leadership. The leader, the Prophet Muhammad, was giving his Friday sermon and Eid sermon in this mosque. Hajjatul Wada, where he mentioned all the human dimensions, the humanitarian dimensions of Islam in his sermon. I think it needs another session to talk only about khutbat Hajjatul Wada, the sermon of Hajjatul Wada.
When he gave
farewell of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
When he gave all the steps of
all the rules and steps, how to organize a Muslim civilization until the end of this world, if you want to be successful. So we have mosque, brotherhood, and neighborhood, and constitution. Mosque, which is considered also as a school, as university. Later on, Muslims were using their mosques where the scholars teach people sociology, physics, mathematics, biology, chemistry. They were teaching Muslims all those sciences. This is how the Muslim civilization was developed later on.
Before anyone else.
Yes, during the Umayyad dynasty, the Abbasid dynasty, and later on. This is how the Muslim civilization reached its golden age later on. And this is how Muslims taught the Western world knowledge and development. And in Cordoba, in Andalusia, where it was the cleanest town in the world at that time, Cordoba, Andalus, the Islamic civilization reached a very high level of development, and so on. So he is a state founder, leader. The Prophet Muhammad is a teacher, muallim, وَإِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ مُعَلِّمًا. The Holy Quran describes the Prophet Muhammad as a teacher. هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته. Recites Allah's verses to them. ويعلمهم ويزكيهم. He purifies them spiritually, as Professor Mimuni mentioned, purification.
After having a knowledge.
Yes, and ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة, teaching them knowledge, book, and wisdom. So the Prophet Muhammad was a teacher also, an educator, then he was an imam. Imam leading Muslims in their prayers, in fasting, in performing Hajj. And this is very important also because he led people in their way of worship. The reference of our way of worship is the Prophet Muhammad.
And
Any imam in the world, anyone who wants to become an imam, he has to take the Prophet Muhammad as an example and his role model. وَجَعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. Prophet Ibrahim was an imam. Muhammad was an imam. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةً. An example. Imam in Arabic means an example, model, role model. So he was an imam, he was an officer. The Prophet Muhammad was an officer, ضابط, because he led Muslims in 27 battles. And he was successful in all of them. And he led Islam towards victory later on. He led Islam to become a universal religion, because the Prophet Muhammad, before he passed away, he gave the flag to Usama ibn Zayd to lead the Muslim army to carry on the message of Islam. Then Islam
the youngest one
moved from the regional dimension, البعد المحلي, local dimension in Mecca and Medina, الجزيرة العربية, towards the universal البعد العالمي الدولي للإسلام, where Muslims began to convey the message of Islam to the Roman Empire and the Persian Empire later on. So he was an officer, very successful officer.
And I think the one who do that, we can say he was a planificator, because he can never do that without doing any plan.
He was a planner. Why I have mentioned this description to our beloved Prophet? Because some writers mention his biography with individual method or vision, right? Sometimes maybe some writers, even some Orientalists, who were not objective like the ones mentioned by Professor, maybe they want to isolate the Prophet Muhammad from sharing his life with as a trader, as a worker, as an educator, as a reformer, muslih, right? So they describe him as insan salih, righteous person only.
Yeah, when he was righteous, he was acceptable.
Yes.
And when he asked the people
of Mecca accepted him as a worshipper, abid, salih, righteous person. But when he became after revelation as muslih, a reformer, renovator, oh no, this with disagree.
I think this is what happened. This is what happened today to some of imams when he is on the minbar was talking, and they say he is good, but when he asked him to do some things, they say no, please don't go further to that, because we.
So this individual description to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a worshipper and as a righteous person only, not as a reformer, muslih, right? Here, I think it's a kind of secular interpretation to the Prophet's life. فهم علماني, تفسير علماني لحياة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. That's why when we read the books of some Orientalists, we have to read them carefully, right? Yeah, there are some of them mentioned by Professor. There is Gustave Le Bon, maybe. There is Sigrid Haneke, the German woman who wrote The Son of Allah Shines on.
She came to Algeria in the 70s.
Yes. Her interest in books. There are writer Goethe mentioned. Our brother Malik Shakkat wrote a very interesting book where he summarized all these testimonies. He mentioned them and summarized the testimonies of Western writers and Orientalists who were very objective. Like Goethe, the German writer, right? He mentioned so many examples of them, and his book is really very interesting.
I think you can't be you can't be not objective when you read all this seerah of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, all his life, all what he did.
Maybe today, brother, before I end, if you don't mind,
yes.
I give the microphone
no,
to
of course I don't
Professor
mind.
Memoni.
I don't mind, no
Thank
worries.
you. Yeah, here we need to correct also some misunderstanding maybe, because some people
is it misunderstanding or something has been done on purpose?
No, I don't like to accuse people.
Okay.
Maybe it is done by ignorance, maybe, innocently, right? That's why we have to be polite with people.
Yes, of course.
Right?
No.
The Prophet Muhammad wasn't accusing people, right? So we do the same thing, right? So there are some people who are misusing some relations of the Prophet today in our world. They are misusing some of his relations when they tell you, the Prophet Muhammad had relations with Jews. كان رسول الله عنده علاقات مع اليهود. يتعامل مع اليهود. But in that time, and the time we are living now, it's totally different. We have to be very careful, and we have to be aware when we give the fatwas, because maybe they believe in normalizing our relations with Zionists today, right? They will justify that with the dealing of the Prophet with Yahud of Medina, right? And they will tell you, the Prophet Muhammad was dealing with Yahud, with Jews in Medina. Why you want us to boycott today, for example, right?
Or they will tell you, do you think that you are better than Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who was dealing with them?
Yeah, but this is kind of misusing, manipulating the proofs and evidence. We have to be very careful and aware about that. Thank you.
What I want to say that the reform that was made by the Prophet ﷺ, was set forth by the Prophet ﷺ, is not easy. And why we have to say his approach is human.
Thank you.
Is empathic. Is a call to reason. It is based on fitrah and the innate, which is off, and then it is a gradual process. Islah, gradual process, starting from the spiritual realm and an ethical reform. It is giving a status of dignity to everybody, and this is a share of rights to everybody. All units, there is a progressive reform of all units: family, economic, social system, and every establishing a new status and rights and duties. For example, the family. And the woman was considered as a slave. He established rights, economic rights, social rights. It was based on love between spouses, respect of parents, respect of things like that. It is promoting on ethic, respect, dignity, fair education. It is mercy, forgiveness. It is taking care of the weak, which was not existing in the Arabic state, in the Arab state at the time of Mecca. The weak was crushed under exploitation. It's reforming all the subsystems of the whole system, education, economic, political. It needed a specific pedagogy, and then there was the laws were made by the Islamic, Quranic, and something like that. But this has to be by the Prophet ﷺ, had to use his specific qualities to influence. I think I can elaborate on this, but maybe honestly, there is no time.
To be honest with both of you, the time are not at the end of this time, but the subject can never be ended, because it is very interesting, very attractive, and we are talking about the life of one of the best leaders, one of the best prophets, one of the best people, one of the best human beings on the world. We can finish it in 2 hours or 3 hours or even a week, because the life of Prophet Nabi is a lesson to us, is a lesson for us. May Allah take us to follow the right way of this life, which is life of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. I hope as well that Allah Azza wa Jal bless to all of us here to make our prophet, our prophet as the conduct, and to follow what he said and what he did. And at the end I will just say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.